Hi, welcome back to Engine Shop Joe. I'm excited about the video tonight because we're going to be taking a look at the actual engine that last week's video was about. I do make these videos well in advance, so it's been almost a month in real time since I got that that spreadsheet that I graphed in the last video to just a couple days ago this week, where we got the engine completely torn down. So they pulled it out of the truck and they shipped it to us to repair it. So let's take a look and see if the troubleshooting we did was really accurate or not. How about that? Does it get any better than this? Let's take a look. Remove the cylinder head from the engine, and this is actually number 6 cylinder. And if you look at it, you see the brown on the left there, kind of caramel brown. That's where we did a little Scotch-Brite to get some carbon off. And then where I've got the black rectangle, you see the green arrows? See what looks like a crack right above that? Well, that's actually just a layer of carbon. But if you look above that, where the red arrows are, there is a crack that's starting there. And so we had cleaned the head off and magnafluxed it, and that showed up as a crack, and it actually runs right over to the edge of where the valve, the hole for the valve is in the head. So we ended up replacing this head. Why did that crack? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was from overheating, because this is the engine that had the severe overheats that got up to 247 degrees. So let's take a look a little farther. Now we're looking at the head. If you take a look at these two valves, you can see where the heads got inserts in it for the valve seats. And these inserts are machined and pressed in. Now you notice the one on the left, the insert is flush with the head, but on the right there's a large gap. I've got green arrows there because this is a recon head. It's also called a scallop head. That dish that you see going through where the green arrows are is the actual scallop. And it's okay that that little gap is there around the edge of the valve seat insert. That's not a problem. They might have cut an oversized seat and pressed it in there. The seat wasn't coming loose. So I just wanted you to see that if you took a look at something like that. That's not a problem as long as that seat's tight and there's no sign of leakage around the seat underneath of the seat. Now I want you to take a look at this liner and see if you can see anything wrong in the liner. In the next video I'm going to show the same liner, but I've got some markups in it. Now here's the same liner, but I've used the light to help accent some marks. Now look over on the far left where the flashlight has got the liner lit up. Do you see that brown circle? It sort of looks like a big oval. And I've got an orange line drawn around it. That's a heat spot. So remember again, this engine had coolant overheats. And I wonder if there was a moment of time where there was some aerated coolant, and you'll see why I think that later. And we got an air pocket back here for a little bit, and that caused that hot spot. Over on the right, you see those two vertical yellow lines. If you look between them, that's what I would call a significant scuffing. It's not scoring unless metal's torn, but when you can see the heat lines clearly, that's scuff. And that's where you were losing your oil film between the rings and the liner. And that's what happens before you end up with a big score down the liner. Again, heat can cause that, but other things can too. This is very interesting. We're going to continue to look. Now, to me, this is just fascinating. If you look over at the left where the red rectangle is, you can see there's a cut down in that liner. It looks like someone almost took, like a valve, went down and just pushed the liner down or cut it. Now look down at the big inside of the big tan rectangle. That, of course, is the top of the piston, but do you see that shadow on it? And do you see the fuel marks on top of the piston dome. You shouldn't really see fuel marks on the dome like that. You shouldn't see that shadow. And if you look at the edge of that piston, you can see that it looks like it's partially burned away. And it is. And what was happening was that one injector hole, something happened. Maybe it was when the engine got hot. Maybe the head got hot enough. And this, again, this is number 6. Maybe the head got hot enough that that injector started to spray incorrectly, and fuel was getting down between the edge of the liner and the piston. And it'll actually burn the edge of the liner off, and it will burn into the liner. And that's what that mark is from the red circle. That's where fuel actually burned away the metal in the liner. So I'm wondering if this engine had a slight knock that they probably couldn't hear. Maybe it only happened under hard acceleration. I don't know. But this really tells the story. We had a fuel problem in the cylinder, and that caused the liner to burn. And that also caused, it was part of the cause of the total failure of the high blow-by. So it's very important when you take an engine apart that you don't just go in and wipe everything off and start cleaning things. You have to look. And many years ago, an engineer from Cummins told me an engine will tell you the story of how it failed, many times why it failed, and you can see how it progressed if you lay the parts out. Now, this guy used to do failure analysis before there was a computer on the engine. So he could tell you things just from looking at the parts. And when I met him, he was close to retirement. So he had done that for many years. And all of us need to be detectives when we're taking an engine apart that had a failure, so that we can prevent the next failure from happening. And that doesn't mean every time we have an injector go bad or something like that, we should suspect a bunch of deeper level things happened. But when you have a problem like we had here, and this ties right into last week's video with the blow-by, this is what happened. And how interesting is this? The last thing I want you to see is a picture of the EGR cooler. This is the core I took a picture of. And if your EGR cooler looks like this, it doesn't get any better. I mean, this is clean. There's no carbon buildup. That's because this engine worked hard. It ran hard. Unfortunately, when the engine ran low on water, guess what happened? The EGR cooler cracked. So even though it looks good, it was failed when we pressure tested it. Now, I wanted to save this slide for last, because once we got the engine apart and we saw what was going on inside, and we had seen the image weeks before with the overheat, we got the engine, and guess what's on the engine? A brand new air compressor coolant line. So one has to wonder, right? For me, it doesn't get any better than when you have a problem that you help solve over the phone, or you hope you're help solving, and then when you tell them to pull a head off, in another distant place, you're hoping you're right, because that's time and money and a machine down. And then they find what looks like a problem, and then they decide to send you the engine. That's really exciting. And then last, you pull it apart and you're able to kind of put all the pieces together, and the puzzle's complete, and you can see what happened. And part of being a good technician, and especially a good engine builder, is not jumping to conclusions and never thinking you know it all. I learn stuff almost every day still, and I do make mistakes in judgment many times. But as long as you're objective and not subjective, you'll be okay. Stick to the facts. And I hope you liked the last couple of videos. I think it was great that we got the engine, was able to do this, and for you to see what I saw. And we ran the engine today, and it ran like a charm, and it's ready to go back. And it's going to get shipped back probably Monday to the to the company that sent it to us, and they're good to go. So thanks for joining me on Engine Shop Joe. Subscribe, turn on the notifications so you know when a new video's posted, and we'll see you next time.